Okay, well, I've got 4 o'clock, so I'm going to suggest we go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome. This is the session on the Illinois Procurement Bulletin for Public Institutions of Higher Education. My name's Kelly Krieger-Hurrah, and I'll be moderating the session today. And we're very glad that you're here. Thanks for coming. Before we get started, just a reminder to please mute your microphones. We'll unmute at the end, and if you'd like to ask questions live, or you can put your questions in the chat, and I will be monitoring those for Jody and for Casey. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. We have Casey and Jody, and Casey has worked in procurement with the University of Illinois for 13 years, working with Public Higher Education Cooperative, IPEC, for the last 7 years. And Jody Wright has been the bulletin manager for 13 years, working with the various public institutions and the Chief Procurement Office for Higher Education. So with that, I am going to turn this session over to you, Jody. And Casey, thank you very much for joining us today.
Great. We're sorry, Casey, we jumped on each other already. Yeah, Casey and I are really excited to be here today and to show you the Illinois Procurement Bulletin for Higher Education. I am going to share my screen right now. We are going to show you the live procurement bulletin. So this is where you would go from the web. I say in production, sorry, that's my tech ease speak that we talk about. But let me know, can everybody see my screen and see the procurement bulletin for higher education?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Excellent. So the procurement bulletin for higher education, it's an electronic bulletin that is used to view upcoming procurement opportunities for the 9 public universities and their 13 campuses. So I can show you this map here real quick. And these are all the participating campuses that utilize the procurement bulletin in order to advertise different procurements. We also have the Math and Science Academy up in the Chicago area that utilizes it also. So what is a posting that we have on the procurement bulletin? It posts different procurement opportunities that are above the small dollar threshold. The small dollar threshold is currently $100,000 for goods and services. We also post what are called sole sources, emergencies, exemptions, and other different types of procurements. What I want to do is just walk you through our website, show you the different areas of it. If anyone has any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask questions. You can send them through the chat, and we will answer them along the way. The first thing with the procurement bulletin is you need to register with our website. If you would like to receive any sort of emails about upcoming procurements in your area of interest, if you want to view any sort of documents, you have to be registered with our website. The registration is in the upper right-hand corner. There's a little link here that says register me now. You click on that link, you fill out the registration information. If you want to receive emails, you say that you want to receive emails. We have updated to the NIGP codes. You'll want to enter your NIGP code that you would find in your area, and then you can register to receive emails. I'm going to log in real quick with mine. Once you do get registered, then you are able to download any documents with a procurement. You are also able to then register for e-bidding, or you can then register for e-bidding and then e-bid on procurements. So let's walk through a little bit of how do you find a procurement in your area of interest and what else is on the website. So how do you find a procurement in your area of interest? Right here on the front page, search. You come in here and you search for whatever it is that your company does or you can provide, and to see if there's anything that is posted out here. So I'm gonna throw in paint, and we'll see. You click search. What I always recommend with this search is over here on the right-hand side is to sort by the date most recent. That's going to give you the most recent procurements that are out here. Some of them may be awarded, some of them may be newly published, but it's going to give you, like I said, whatever's most recent. You are also able to use what we call the facets on the left-hand side of this page. If you are solely in Southern Illinois and you only want to see the procurements for SIU Carbondale or SIU Edwardsville, then you can select those specific universities or institutions. So you don't see everything, because like we said, this is all 13 of the public universities within the state of Illinois and their campuses. So there's a lot of information that is out here. As you can see, there's a bunch of different invitations for bids. We have professional services, we have construction bids. Like here's one invitation for a construction bid that we can look at. And here it shows you what they're looking for. It's the ISU parking lot resurfacing. It gives you a description of what they're wanting. It shows you when you have to submit your sealed bids. So for this one, sealed bids have to be, they are being accepted until Tuesday, May 31st at 2 p.m. And you can also see over here on, let me make this a little bigger, on the right-hand side, here's all the different documents that are associated with this procurement. So any type of information that the university is going to need from you for this bid is going to be in these specific documents. They're going to have the standard requirements, any type of requirements you're going to need from whether it's the Secretary of State, if you need to provide a utilization plan, all of that information is in any of these documents. Like I said, you have to be registered with our website and logged in order to download the documents. Then all you have to do is click on one of the radio buttons. You do have to download the documents each individually, and then click the download button, and then the document will open for you. You can also email this document to yourself if you would like. You click on the email button, you click select, and then once again, you click the radio button and then have it emailed to you. Some of the bigger documents, individuals' email servers sometimes have limits, so it might be better just to download them to your desktop. Kind of gone through a lot of information there at the very beginning. Do we have any questions yet, Kelly, or does anybody have any questions they want to throw out before I keep going up?
Nothing yet in the chat, but if anybody wants to open their mic, feel free.
Yep.
Yeah, so it is a lot of information. This is Casey here with the Bulletin office here at the university. And, there's a lot of different ways to interact with the Bulletin, but, we wanted to go through and show you, at a high level, what you could expect and kind of give you like an overview. So if you have questions that are more specific, please feel comfortable asking us and reaching out. I know Jody has more things to go over, and we're happy to address any questions.
Okay, I'll keep moving on. And if anyone has any, like I said, please jump in. One thing I do want to point out on this notice, this one shows that it is via electronic bidding. Well, you can either manually submit, submit through paper, or this has electronic bidding. So a question might be, how can I electronically submit my my documentation to the university in question? So let me show you how that works real quick.
And Jody, while you navigate the pages, we have a question in the chat that I think kind of is a perfect segue to your e-bidding demonstration.
Sure.
So the question is, does the vendor have to be registered in IPG as well as this site, iDirect Clients Here Live? So the answer to that is no. You do not have to be registered with the IPG. It's not a requirement to respond to any of the solicitations that you would see on this website. However, if if you are trying to register on the bulletin to eBid, maybe the solicitation like Jody just showed allows for it. Not all of them do, and not all of them are solely eBidding. Some of them can be a paper submittal or an eBid. But if you choose to eBid, you have to be IPG registered. So that's a great question. You don't, so that's the only kind of carve out or caveat, if you will, that requires an IPG registration. And the IPG registration can take some time, and it's not automatically uploaded to the bulletin. It is something where it's an overnight refresh. So if you got registered with that IPG, and those that aren't familiar with IPG, I apologize. That's the Illinois Procurement Gateway, and it's a way to list your kind of, it's called financial disclosures and conflicts of interest. Yep, Jody just pulled it up. If you are registered with that, that's awesome. We like that. It makes it a lot easier for you to, it does. So it's a lot easier for you to respond. So whenever you register on the bulletin, it asks for your IPG vendor number. Only if you want to register to eBid. You can leave it blank and it will still let you go through. Jody, correct me if I'm wrong there, but you only have to enter that to be registered to eBid.
That is correct. Yes. So
that's an awesome question. Thank you for asking.
I think we have something else. I can't see the chat when I'm displaying, so it looks like there might be a couple more questions in the chat, but I don't know if people are just saying thank you.
It is the same. Yeah. The next question is, part of the application asks for the IPG vendor number, which I think we addressed. And then there's a third question that says, where are the awards posted? And we will show that here in just a moment. Jody can show the screens how it looks.
Yes, exactly. So like Casey talked, gave you all the information about e-bidding. Here is where here is where e-bidding lives. And once you do register with the Illinois Procurement Gateway, you are given what's called an IPG number. You put that number here into the search. You click search. You will then, since this is our production environment, I don't want to make myself a vendor. So you will put it in there. They'll give you a little link that says, is this your company? And you say yes, and then you are ready to eBid. So if there is any type of notice like here, so this one is eBidding. If I were registered to eBid, I would see a little link up here that says submit eBid. And I would click on that link and it would give me a new window that would give me the place where I can upload my documents in order to eBid. So that's where it's just a little bit different. You do have to go to the individual notice in order to see that link that says, let me register or let me eBid. So let me know if that doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's see. So we've got eBidding, and like Casey said, there are also notices that do not have eBidding. And let me show you one of those real quick. You can also search in our website by procurement number. I will show you once we pull this up where the procurement number is located. And it will then give you the actual notice that you're looking for. So here is where you will find the procurement number. It's always after the pound sign. So this tells you the type of notice it is. This is a request for proposal or an RFP. And then here is the procurement number. Like we said, you can search for it that way. This RFP is only paper submission. So you will have to submit any of the documentation that's requested paper. So you can either put it through the mail, or you can, if you're local, you can deliver it by hand. Okay. Let's see. So the next question, let me show you this real quick. Sometimes on a notice, when it is first published, there might be what is called a modification. And if you've registered to receive emails, you will get notified of any of the modifications. So when this notice was first published, this was the information. And then as you can see, there was an addendum 1 that was attached, which covered questions and answers at the pre-submission call. And then there was an addendum 2. We just wanted to kind of show you some of the different nuances to some of the notices when you go out here so that you knew what they were. But let's get directly to award. So how do you know if something has been awarded? Once again, you just come out to our website and you look up whichever procurement it is you were interested in so that you can see that it has been awarded. You click on the link once again, and this shows you where the award is. So I'm going to run down to the bottom of the notice. This is what was initially published, and then there were a couple of modifications, and now we have the award. This is who was awarded this notice. And like I just said a moment ago, if you have registered to receive emails, once this gets awarded, you will receive an email that tells you that it has been awarded and who it has been awarded to. You can see in here the vendor that has been awarded. This has actually been awarded to more than one vendor. There are 2 vendors, their estimated amounts, the terms, if there's any subcontractors that are associated with it. And then there's a summary down here also. But that's where you'll see the award information. Any questions about the award information?
Jody, not the award
Yes.
information, but would you show us if you find a solicitation
Mhm.
that you want to follow, would you show us where you indicate you want to follow that so you get those updated emails?
Okay, so there isn't any way that you can follow the solicitation. The way that you can follow it is if to be honest, the easiest way to follow a solicitation is to download one of the documents that are associated with that solicitation. So if you have downloaded a document, actually, let me take the awarded one away. Let me grab this one here. So if I download one of these documents or email the document to me, anytime anything else happens to this notice, I will get an email about it. That's really the easiest way that you can follow it. Otherwise, you will just have to come back into the bulletin itself and search on the procurement number in order to see if there's anything new associated with it. There isn't any sort of, save this over here so I can look at it later. You'll have to keep that number somewhere for yourself.
Okay, excellent. That's very helpful. And while I've got you, there's one more question. Is an IDHR registration required for submittals, even if the vendor has less than 15 employees?
So this is Casey. That is a great question. IDHR registration is required for submittals. If you have 15 or less employees per law, you're exempt from having to have an IDHR registration, and you would indicate that in your response. So there are forms for you to fill out in the response, and in those forms, one of the questions that's asked is if you have an IDHR or if you're exempt, and you would mark exempt if you have 15 or less. If you have 16 or more employees and you need to have an IDHR registration, you would need to navigate away from this site and to the IDHR website and follow the instructions there on how to register.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. So there's another question here. Could you explain the purchasing thresholds? Is there a dollar amount that would not be found here? So yeah, as Jody initially indicated, the purchasing thresholds for general supplies and services is 100,000. I think their construction's 100,000 now too. Jody just pulled it up on the screen.
Yes.
So if there is a purchase that's under 100,000, it wouldn't necessarily be posted here for a competitive solicitation. It doesn't mean it wouldn't be, and there may be some exemptions by law that aren't posted here as well. P card information. Let me think about that. There's not a good way to say, oh, these 100 departments over, all of our campuses are purchasing on P card. But there are laws in place that require our universities to collectively do a competitive solicitation, right? So a good example is janitorial, like Jody brought up. I will stick with that one. We know that collectively over a period of time, we're purchasing over 100,000. So we would be stringing is the official term if we did not go out and do a solicitation. So it's plausible if they're buying a piece of equipment, but unlikely that each order is $100,000, right? I mean, they might be buying $20,000 in roll towels, but if they do that for 5 times, now we're getting to that small dollar threshold, and they need to do a competitive solicitation. So we preemptively identify that overall in the janitorial world, we are likely going to spend over $100,000. In this case, we estimate over a 5-year term, we'll spend closer to $20,000. That's why we did a solicitation here. That was a very long-winded answer, but I hope it addresses the mindset of how purchasing posts out here. And I know Jody mentioned it earlier, but it's not just the University of Illinois that posts out here, or you know, the system of Southern Illinois University. It's all the universities, all the public universities in the state that use this website. Small purchasing, each of the purchasing offices would handle that individually. So they may have, like, for example, like some predetermined catering vendors that have already completed like an RFI and provided all the insurance information that they need. But you know, catering doesn't always go up over the small dollar threshold. So you could visit the participating universities links here that Jody pulled up and review their policies on a campus level. Awesome question. Thanks for asking that. I hope I answered it. If not, feel free to type in a follow-up question. Thanks, Jody, for driving and showing them those links.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, so we really don't have a whole lot more to show you. The one thing I do have to preface is that here in probably the next 6 months, our bulletin will not look like this. We are doing a major reface of our public side of the procurement bulletin. So if in the next 6 months you come out here and you're like, this looks nothing like what Jody and Casey showed me, that's a good thing, because our website is 20 years old. So we're pretty excited about giving it a facelift and making it look a little different. So yeah, if there are any other questions, you know, here on our homepage, we have, you know, the update my info. So once you do register, if anything changes, you can go in here and make any updates. Browse if you do want to look for things that are current. And if you want to look by, you know, area, let's say you want to look for, you know, Southern Illinois Carbondale, right now they don't have anything currently that's posted out here that's open for activity. You can, you know, look at it that way. But the site itself is pretty simple. I completely understand that procurement is not simple. So if there are any other questions that you have, please feel free to, you know, like I said, chat it or call, or not call, but unmute yourself and we can talk a little bit more.
So we do have a question. When you say $100,000, do you mean collectively budgeted for a particular buy?
So that's an interesting question. For the most part, it would vary, right? I mean, the law is fairly clear that if we're purchasing with a vendor over that small dollar threshold, which right now is identified to be $100,000, we need to be doing a competitive solicitation. Now, there are different iterations and legal opinions on that, right? So if it's under a small dollar threshold and, you know, maybe they're buying, you know, $5,000 across, you know, a couple of different departments, if systems don't have the functionality to catch that, it would be viewed a little bit differently as a collective budget, right? I mean, purchasing offices aren't receiving the budgets for each of the campus departments and then identifying, oh, we're buying office supplies. What we're doing is trying to be as proactive as possible in identifying spending trends, if you will, so as well as needs. So we're looking at previous year's spends and identifying new opportunities where we can go and leverage spend to get better discounts and make sure that we're getting the best price from the best vendor collectively by doing a competitive solicitation. Also, as we're getting requisitions and then requisitions for purchases, we are identifying what the spend looks like, if there are contracts in place. If there's a contract in place and it's over multiple years and collectively it will go over $100,000, those are also triggers to stop and do a competitive solicitation of some sort. So there's a lot of different moving pieces that we try to have those stop gaps and make sure that if we are seeing orders over $100,000 or multiple orders that would add up to be over $100,000, that we're hitting the pause button and doing a competitive solicitation, not only just because it meets the letter of the law, which we always want to be compliant with the law, right? But also because in good stewards of our fiscal budgets, that makes the most sense to make sure that we're getting the most competitive price with the best value and services. Sorry, I give long-winded answers sometimes because I think it's really hard in procurement with a lot of moving pieces, and based on all of your awesome questions, I can tell that you guys understand that procurement has a lot of moving pieces as well. So I'm happy to address any other questions that you might have. I think Jody's done a really awesome job. Thank you, Jody, of driving through the website and kind of showing us ways to search and browse and how to read the different websites for the landing pages. There's always a contact out there. If you're just unsure of what you're reading, can't remember what we demoed, you can always email the CPO webmaster. You can always go to the purchasing departments individually, and on the notice status that Jody was showing us, there's always a procurement contact listed there too. And they're always going to be an awesome resource for you. They're the ones who drafted your RFP and will be or bid or RFI or QBS, etc., and would be the best contact for that. I'll pause there and take a breath. Any other questions, or Kelly, you have anything for us?
I don't have anything in the chat, but Casey, if you wouldn't mind, I do have a question, just purchasing in general with the higher ed. If you bid on a contract and you are an unsuccessful bidder, what is kind of the let's say the attitude, or what's kind of the policy of having on the federal side, we call it a debrief, but having a discussion with an unsuccessful bidder for them to just kind of get some feedback on how to do better next time? Are you guys, are you good with that? Is it something that is kind of discouraged? How do you feel about that in general?
So each of the purchasing offices handle that differently. So it is a little hard to answer, but we call it the same thing, a debrief. You would be notified based on the award posting. You would be emailed, since you had responded to this, downloaded it, that there was an award posted there, and you could, very easily see if your company was listed or not. If it wasn't, you're within your rights to reach out to the purchasing contact. Like this example, Jackie Gunderson is the contact. In this next example, Graham is, and just ask them for a debrief and just let them know, hey, I just want to know what went wrong here. What can I learn? In my office, in the IPAC office, we do it 2 different ways. We do sort of an informal debrief where we kind of chat about the process and maybe what went wrong if you didn't submit forms that, the law says we had to disqualify you. We would talk about that. And then, we can do a more formal one, which right now is a little bit tricky because we can't do them in person. But we will, set a virtual meeting, and we'll have, your full submittal set up so we can go through it piece by piece, look at any evaluation criteria that may have sort of set you back in a way, or again, if there were any of those pieces that were considered mandatory, which means if you did not supply it or didn't give us information about it, that you would automatically be disqualified. Most of those are generally the registrations like IDHR. Actually, I think IDHR is the only one right now that is required at submittal. Or if you did not submit like a utilization plan, that's listed here at the bottom of the specification documents here on the right of the screen, or a Form A or a Form B. Those are just examples of documents that are required to be submitted with your submittal, or you're automatically disqualified. So we do it either one of two ways. I know different offices do it differently. They may just have you just come in for an in-person meeting and just do that formal debrief so everybody's on the same page and pull everything together and have that conversation. And others approach it like I do and try to get it on the calendar a little bit faster and have a bit more of a high level discussion on how the process went and what went wrong for any particular vendor. That's an awesome question.
Perfect. That's very helpful to know. And the vendors really do appreciate that. So thank you, Casey.
Yeah, we love doing that. Especially if we have to rebid, we encourage it. And in fact, in my office, if we're in a situation where we have to rebid something, we reach out to the vendors and say, hey, we want to have a debrief with you. Please get with us so we can get it on the calendar. But I know not all offices have enough time for that. We're a very small office of 2 buyers. So we try to only ask for debriefs if we're going to have to rebid it. But we always welcome it. Is there anything else we can talk about? I know it's a lot of information, and procurement is not the easiest to navigate all the time, but I will tell you that all of our contacts are awesome folks. Our CPO webmaster, like Jody, is fantastic. They get back to you really quickly. Our turnaround times are really fast, and I always encourage you to reach out. If you think of something later on, we're reachable. Please get a hold of us. We'd be happy to talk with you about anything. And our bulletin webmaster, they have a team of folks if Jody's not available to answer, and they'll help you get registered or get you in contact with the right procurement contact so you can ask questions about procurements or anything in between.
Jody, I do have a question. So I've noticed some of the construction contracts in the past, and you guys have a pretty good or pretty aggressive diversity program on subcontracting. Are you only accepting state of Illinois BEP certifications?
That would be a Casey question, not a Jody question. Jody question is the website. Casey questions the procurement stuff.
So I guess I have a follow-up question, Chris. Your question is, for construction procurement, are we only accepting BEP certified respondents?
Correct.
Okay. The answer to that is no, unless it's a sheltered market. It would not be limited to just diverse certified companies. However, each of our procurements in some way should indicate what the diversity goal and the veteran goal is. So construction typically does have a higher goal, and it does follow a different section of the purchasing code, which is why you see it broken out in the bid limits that it could potentially in the future have a different small dollar threshold as well. The CPO and the market lately hasn't shown that in the last several years, but it could change. And all of the procurements, construction or general services, all have diversity goals attached to them based on Illinois certifications. Now, some of those goals might be 0% if there's nobody registered in those categories, but you likely won't ever see a 0% in construction. I don't post construction, but I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else that would like to unmute and talk to Jody or Casey?
I do have a comment to make too. I think, Jody, this is a question for you since it is about the website. And you said that there's going to be changes to the website. Obviously I've registered myself to receive bids, and I always recommend PTACs, do that themselves so we can, potentially distribute, or follow up with some of our client base. You said the website might be changing. Will that affect the registration portal at all, receiving those solicitations?
No, it will not. Everybody who's still registered will still be registered. That will not affect it. It will just have a brand new look and feel.
Yep.
So yeah, and if you're already registered, you will still be registered and you'll still receive all of your emails.
Awesome, thanks.
You're
And
welcome.
I think to that, to Jody's point, the look and feel, it addresses somebody else's question you had earlier about how can I see what's awarded or out there. It'll just be a little bit more of a virtual bulletin that we think will be a bit more easy to navigate. I don't think the website's hard to navigate now. I just think it's a bit dated in what we're used to seeing in this type of environment. If you're not registered, or if you have previously been registered but haven't seen any email notifications lately, go back out and check out your profile. We have had some profile changes, so we encourage you to go and do that and just make sure that everything's updated in there and that you have selected that you do want email notifications. And you can always register, but select no email notifications and just go out there and check periodically. You may miss things, of course. It's not what we recommend, but if you don't want your inbox flooded, I understand that too, but it is a great resource. It's where we post all of our competitive solicitations across the state for higher education. So it's an awesome repository of everything that's out there. And hopefully, you can go out and also identify, commodities that you might be interested in. If we have things that are coming up for expiration, you can reach out to the procurement contacts and use it for your knowledge in that way too. That's all I have. Do you guys have any other questions?
I don't see anything else, but I'd really like to thank you both for the time that you've given us today. Greatly appreciate the partnership between your offices and the Illinois PTACs. And we'll be using this information going forward with our clients and encouraging them to do business with the state agencies. So with that, we will end the session for today. And thank you to all of you who attended. And thank you again, Jody and Casey, for joining us.
Thank you. It was an honor being invited. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.